right, hello everybody. I'd like to kick things off for our Innovating Distributed Embedded Energy Prize, the InDEEP Prize. This is going to be the Phase 2 kickoff webinar. Thanks very much for attending. My name is Bill McShane. I work for the Department of Energy's Water Power Technology Office, and I and a whole team of people are here today to talk to you about phase 2 of the prize. And before we jump right into phase 2, I'd also like to say congratulations to our phase 1 winners. We made 19 awards for phase 1. It was very exciting applications to review. We're very interested in all of them. So thank you to our winners. I hope you guys are here today, and I hope many more people are here as well. And there was an announcement. If you never saw the announcement, we can get the link off to the announcement to everybody, but probably most of you have seen it. And with that, we'll go to the next slide, please. So quick agenda, we've got our welcome, which I'm doing right now. We'll give a quick overview of the Water Power Technology Office and the InDEEP Prize. We'll talk about the prize phases and the awards. We'll give them more into depth about phase 2, and you can also read about it in the phase 2 rules document. We'll talk about submission package and scoring criteria for phase 2, and we'll end with some questions and answers. So that's our agenda today. Next slide, please. And here we go. Are you new to the prize? So we should be able to use the Zoom feature to capture some questions or some responses. I think we're gonna have a couple Q&A responses here. So everybody, the polls should pop up, and we'd love to get your feedback down at the bottom of the Zoom. If you can answer, and I guess hosts and panelists can't vote, but for everybody else, we would love to capture some feedback. This will help us shape our future webinars and also learn about who's on the line. So if you're new to the prize, if you didn't participate in phase 1, you weren't teamed, we'd love to know that. If you were familiar with phase 1, you participated, you teamed, you maybe even submitted, we'd like to know that too. So we'll give that a minute. So again, in the Zoom tool down at the bottom, there's a thing called polls. We'll collect some live feedback. And it'd be great. We have a mix of new people and people that already participate. That would be absolutely fantastic. All right, and there's probably enough time to answer that simple poll. We'll go on to the next slide. Oh, and there we go. We got who's new. 31% are new. It doesn't actually give me the count, and 69% of the people are participating. So that's good. 1/3 new, 2/3, roughly 2/3 have been here before. So that's exciting to get some new people. Phase 2 is open to new participants. So it's not, you didn't have to compete and win in phase 1 to compete in phase 2. It's open. And that's been a best practice we've learned from the numerous other prizes the Water Power Technology Office run and throughout the Department of Energy, that keeping phase 1 and phase 2 open, we get a lot of exciting proposals in phase 2 we wouldn't have otherwise received. So thanks for those poll results. Let's go on to slide 4. All right, here we go. Real quick, what is the Water Power Technology Office? For those of you who have not heard it, well, the Water Power Technology Office has 2 programs inside of it. It has the hydropower program, which funds research and development into modernizing the existing fleet of hydropower facilities. It also does research into pumped storage hydropower, very exciting storage, tremendous amount of energy storage, and also looking into funding research into new low impact projects. I'm not on the hydro side of the office, but I think there's something like 80 or 90% of the dams in the United States are unpowered, maybe even higher. So there's tremendous opportunity there to power some of these dams. I guess a lot of dams are used for flood control, irrigation, or other needs. And then we'll go on to the side of the office that I do work for, that is the Marine Energy Program. We fund research so we can have cost-effective harvesting of energy from ocean waves, ocean tides, rivers, and currents, and also to a lesser extent, these gradients, so thermal gradients, pressure gradients, and salinity gradients. So we fund a lot of research in the Congress appropriates those funds. We fund lots of very interesting research in the marine space. And one of the things we're funding is this InDEEP Prize, which I will hand off to I believe it's to Carrie. So thanks everybody for attending. This is very exciting turnout. And with that, off to Carrie.
Thanks, Bill. Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Carrie Schmaus. a technology manager, and I work with Bill at the Water Power office. I just wanted to provide a few quick overview slides / reminders for folks that may have seen these before. Of course, the InDEEP prize does have a $2.3 million prize pool, and it's comprised of 3 phases over 2 years. So the first phase has come and gone, but as Bill mentioned, I will just emphasize phase 2 is open to all participants, whether or not you participated or won in phase 1. So please do consider entering if you haven't already into phase 2, which again is open to everybody. We were very excited to make 19 awards in phase 1. Congratulations again to those winners. You can read all about them on the HeroX website. But the goal of this prize is to incentivize progress in early stage research, specifically in distributed embedded energy, and help solve technical challenge that could be applied to wave energy. And we say could because we are looking for folks to participate from the marine energy industry, but also folks that may be new to the marine energy industry. And so the only thing the concept has to do is be applicable to wave energy. It doesn't necessarily need to be currently tied to wave energy. So that's why we use that phrasing. Let's go to the next slide. So the goals of this prize, the first one is leverage WEC, that's wave energy converter innovation, to systematically develop DEC tech concepts that's distributed embedded energy conversion that could bring value to the wave energy industry. So we use that could there again, because we're really hoping to get people from in and outside marine energy to participate. Our second goal is to build a solver community. And so that means we're really interested in bringing together innovators from, again, inside and outside marine energy together to think about DEC tech that could be related to marine energy. The third goal is to encourage development of novel DEC tech with high potential relevance to wave energy conversion. And again, you'll see the word interdisciplinary there. We're really interested in getting folks from a variety of different disciplines, and we are supporting them through ideation to design. And then finally, we're looking to refine WEC innovation methods, and we're going to talk about what do we mean by WEC innovation methods. There's some content on that later, so stay tuned. But there's some really interesting ways to think through the innovation of DEC tech that can be applied to wave energy. And we're hoping to get some refinement of those methods that can be incorporated beyond the field of wave energy based on feedback from the prize. So what we're really trying to do with this is get an understanding of the landscape of innovators and potential DEC tech solutions that could be applied to wave energy devices. And you'll hear us say this a lot. Please look at the rules document. We spent a ton of time writing that. It's very detailed. It should answer nearly, if not all of your questions. And so the specific section that is relevant to the goals that we're talking about here is in section 1.5. All right, let's go to the next slide. And, oh, there we go. Okay, so we've got our timeline here. So phase 1, as I mentioned, has come and gone. We awarded 19 folks. We were really excited about that. Phase 2, again, is open to everybody. It's design, build, and testing a single DEC. We will be awarding up to 15 winners with up to $1.2 million in prizes. So we're really excited for that. And then the prize ends with the phase 3, which is to actually integrate the DECs and test a DEC tech metamaterial. We're going to define all those words, so don't worry about exactly what that means quite yet. But that is going to award up to 4 winners, up to $800,000 in prizes. And then this slide here is just some very important dates. As always, these are subject to change, and the most up-to-date dates are going to be on the HeroX website. As soon as there's a change, we update that right away. So that's always going to be your best resource for finding out what dates you need to be aware of. But as hopefully everybody's aware, November 7th, phase 2 did open. So we are in phase 2 right now, and that goes until May 7th. And those, well, November 7th can't change because it already happened, and May 7th is unlikely to change. Beyond that, we do plan to open phase 3 in July 2024. Of course, that is subject to change. And then looking somewhere in 2025 to close phase 3 and announce those winners. And with that, I will pass it on to Anna.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Yee. I'm also with the Water Power Technologies office. And as Carrie mentioned, the goal of phase 2 is to have teams build and test a single DEC at a benchtop scale. Required and scored items will include a live demonstration, a test report, and the TPL assessment. So in phase one, as you can remember, we asked for a TPL assessment that will be required and scored this time. Of course, we have new competitor support mechanisms available to you all, which I will get to in a second. And then something that's not specific to InDEEP, but a slight change that we're implementing across all prizes is a slight change to the scoring scale. So instead of a 1 to 6 scale, we will be scoring on a 0 to 5 scale for simplicity reasons. Next slide, please. So why should you participate? This is a really exciting prize and a really exciting time. We're looking to tap into the unrealized power of the ocean's waves. So by participating in this prize, you'll be at the forefront of wave energy technology development, and of course, be joining us in a clean energy revolution. Whether you are new to marine energy or have been in the space, you will all have access to various trainings and industry experts that will get you up to speed on participating in this prize. If you are looking to add team members to your teams, or looking for a team to join, we do have a teaming platform that you can utilize to build interdisciplinary teams. And then Carrie mentioned this, but the prizes for phase 2, we are looking to award up to 15 teams at $80,000 each. Next slide, please. So like I mentioned, we have competitor support available to you all. In phase 1, we did a series of trainings on wave energy, deck tech, and innovation methods. And in this phase, we are taking that up a notch. So we will be running the same webinars, but at an intermediate level. You can, of course, go back to those recordings in phase 1 and get up to speed, and then come to our 2.0 versions of the webinars. We'll also be doing a TPL assessment tips and tricks and providing an example live demonstration. Of course, we have our lovely power connectors available to you all. You can sign up for one-on-one meetings with Ramble and WaveVenture. All resources are available on the HeroX page on the resources tab and listed in our rules document. Next slide, please. All right, next polling question. So are you new to deck tech technology? Like we mentioned before, this prize is available to anyone to participate, whether you are new to the prize or competed in phase 1, whether you're new to marine energy or not new. Yeah, we are curious to know kind of where everyone's at. All right, we'll give it maybe a couple more seconds here, and then let's see the results. Oh, okay. So we kind of have a 50-50 split. That's really interesting. That sounds like a great setup for an interesting phase 2. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, my colleague Joachim, to continue us forward.
Hi there. Hello. I just want to bring 2 points across, and one is the opportunity space that we're trying to tap into here with distributed embedded energy conversion. So on the left-hand side is an attempt to display the fact that in terms of concentrated energy conversion, that is wave bodies that are interacting with the waves and are accumulating surface pressures to forces in desired and in undesired degrees of freedom. That's meant by concentrated energy conversion that we have done since the 70s in maybe 2.5 wave energy eras, a lot of work. And with successes and setbacks and all that happened in that time. So referring to this as the conventional technology approach, we've done a lot of exploration. So this is symbolized with the graphics on the left. So we've hinge barges, heaving buoys, overtopping devices, OWCs. So a lot has been done in that domain. Now on the right-hand side, there is an attempt to display the fact that the distributed embedded energy conversion concept is A, novel, and B, is a vastly underexplored solution space. There's a lot of things possible. Some we know, some we don't know, and this is exactly what we're trying to find out here. We are aware of some substantial work by SBM, some other research projects that are either within that scope or on the fringe of it because they're not fully implementing what we're looking for here. So the message here is, hey, there's a large underexplored innovation space, and let's find out the good nuggets within that space. Next slide, please. So the next message that I'd like to convey here is the paradigm shift that is clear with respect to the design of this technology. Again, thinking, and what we're trying to do here is to use an analogy out of a different domain that we're all very familiar with, solar power. So on the left-hand side, we've got concentrated energy conversion in solar power, which then turns out to be thermal solar power. So we're interfering with the renewable energy field, solar in that sense, and directing it onto one place and accumulating on the field side our energy density to a high power. And then we're using a conventional power conversion chain to come to electricity. Okay, what do we have on the right-hand side? Here we have a distributed energy conversion, which means that we are interfering or extracting energy out of the original renewable energy field, solar, on a panel, and we are converting that energy directly in that place to electricity. And then the aggregation is on the electricity side, on the electric side. In the left case, again, to remember, the aggregation was directly in the original energy form that we're tapping into, solar. So that's the big difference. And there's many advantages and disadvantages associated with those two. On the modular side has the opportunity to, well, so I just spilled the beans here. The distributed side has the opportunity to be modular, with that very, very scalable and applicable to different situations. And we just want to make sure that we are clear that what we're pursuing here with distributed embedded energy conversion, so local extraction of the hydrodynamic energy directly in place on the wave energy structure into electricity and aggregation on the electrical side. This example does not exclude other versions. We could aggregate other forms of energy that are intermittent or in between, but that's a good example to compare it with, which is truly a paradigm shift in the design approach. And hopefully we'll find out it may also be a paradigm shift in what it can deliver in terms of performance and techno-economics. Thank you very much. So I'll hand it on to, I know it is Blake. Blake, there you go.
Thanks, Joachim. Hi, everyone. So my job here is to explain more specifically what DECTEC is. That is this distributed embedded energy converter technological domain, and building upon what Joachim was indicating, where we're trying to encourage a paradigm shift from concentrating energy, namely ocean waves, into a singular power takeoff or a singular generator. We want to distribute it out amongst many smaller energy converters. And this is the allegory, the analogy between concentrated solar and distributed solar that Joachim was speaking of. So the brass tacks of it all is that DECTEC can be viewed at 3 hierarchy levels. So the first hierarchy level is at the very bottom here, where we're just speaking about the individual energy converters themselves that we're simply calling DECs for distributed embedded energy converter. Typically, they're small with characteristic lengths of centimeters rather than tens of meters. These individual energy converters could leverage any number of physical phenomena, Faraday's law of induction, piezoelectric effects, variable capacitance, hydraulics, pneumatics, all that is perfectly valid on the table. And there could be other forms of physical phenomena that maybe we're not too familiar with. Redux, that comes to my mind as like a reflow battery could be a potential. The next hierarchy level, building from the individual decks, is their amalgamation together into a structural framework that we're calling deck tech metamaterials. So these metamaterials are, again, made from the interconnections of many different decks. It should be mentioned that the metamaterials don't necessarily need to be made by one particular deck. Could be made from several different types. Maybe you have a deck based on piezo, and maybe you have another based on Faraday's law of induction. And in any case, you can combine those together to form a metamaterial. Then moving up the hierarchy level, we use those metamaterials as the building, the constructural components for an actual ocean wave energy converter, a WEC. So leveraging those deck tech metamaterials to build maybe the hull, maybe the internal components, maybe even part of the mooring systems of a wave energy converter. Next slide, please. In any case, this prize focuses on just the individual decks and the deck tech metamaterial. So it's not in large part expected that the contestants have to flesh out a full-fledged ocean wave energy converter. We're really only looking at the innovating of an individual deck and the innovating of a corresponding deck tech metamaterial. So that's worth emphasizing. Next slide, please. In terms of really speaking more towards what an individual deck is, all I have on the screen here is just a simple pictorial representation of a deck. And really the big takeaway should be is that not only is an individual deck the energy transducer or the small energy converter, but it's also a structural component. There has to be a means by which an individual deck can be interconnected to other decks to form the metamaterials. Next slide, please. And so what you see on the right-hand side of the screen is an example of a deck tech metamaterial with some of its components removed, showing the internals. So on the far left of that deck tech metamaterial example, you're looking at the possible supporting framework. It could be some sort of elastomer that the individual decks are embedded within. And then in the middle of that figure, I'm trying to showcase the individual decks, how they're interconnected and also sort of embedded within that material framework. And then, of course, there has to be system integration. Those individual decks need to be interconnected, not only structurally, but there's going to be power connectors, signal connectors, and other forms of interconnects. Next slide, please. All this to say is that there's many unknown possible ways that you could develop individual decks or interconnect them together. But the overarching theme here harkens back to what Joachim was saying earlier, where we're looking at moving away from concentrating ocean wave energy harvest and conversion into a singular PTO and distributing it throughout some series or network or framework of individual decks that form metamaterials. And I like this particular slide because it indicates the opportunity to have a very diverse solver community, maker community from backgrounds that we're not really used to in marine renewable energy. So leveraging people from soft robotics, people from MEMS technology, all of this is perfectly valid and is of great interest to deck tech and the prize. Thank you, everyone. Looking forward to the questions. I'll turn it over. Next slide.
Amanda, we're pitching to you here.
Alrighty, so let's go through the submission package and scoring criteria. So to start, there is a list that you can find in our rules document of all the materials that you will need to submit. That includes a summary slide, which will be made public and not scored. A TPL assessment. If you competed in the last phase, you'll remember what this looks like. Last phase, it was not scored, but this phase, that is scored. It will not be made public, however. You will produce a technical narrative. This also will not be made public and is scored. If you choose to compete in the leaderboard, that is by nature public and that is scored. The test report. This is a report that's in addition to the technical narrative, so it shouldn't be duplicative, and it's we don't have it in here. It's up to 20 more pages that you can complete to let us know about your technology. So it will not be made public since that will be proprietary, and it will be scored. And the last is a live virtual deck demonstration. We'll have a webinar, as noted before, where we'll walk you through what to expect here. This is not public. It is scored in a pass-fail nature, and this will be arranged at the end of the phase after you've submitted all of the written materials. These will be scheduled over that next couple weeks. Next slide. So again, the scoring criteria has changed a little in that it's now 0 through 5 instead of 1 through 6. 0 means that reviewers feel that your submission does not address the scoring criteria, while a 5 is that they believe it strongly agrees or fully addresses. So when you open up that official rules document, you will see all of those scoring criteria for each of those materials that you are submitting. Next slide. So you'll see here the technical narrative is worth 115 points. So you get to that number by looking at the scoring criteria, a maximum of 5 points each. Likewise, phase 2 TPL assessment, test report. The leaderboard submission is a little different because there are maximums that you can accrue in each of the sections. All of that is detailed again in that official rules document. And then the live virtual deck demonstration is a pass-fail. So you can receive a maximum of 170 points on your submission. Next slide.
Thank you, Amanda. And Taylor. I'm Thomas Batai. I am a researcher with the National Renewable Energy Lab. And now, as Amanda showed, there are 6 submission items required in phase 2. And 2 of these are shown here in more detail, and I will speak to these 2. The first one is the submission summary slide, which is a public-facing 1-slide summary of your technology. It should describe how your concept works and its anticipated impact. And this slide will be publicly accessible. So you want to summarize your approach in a way that's accessible to a general audience. And please note that this slide will not be used in evaluating your submission. The second item shown on the right-hand side is a simplified technology performance level, or TPL assessment. A TPL assessment is a methodology to get a holistic measure of a technology's techno-economic performance potential when it's fully developed for commercial deployment. And we have implemented this methodology for a wave energy farm taken as a whole system, and that consists of 88 questions, and those questions are designed to tease out the eventual promise of the WEC technology and its competitiveness in the energy market. But for the purpose of this prize, we have selected a dozen questions from the full set, which we thought were relevant to the prize, and we simplified them and adapted them to the prize. We have a template with these 12 questions, which is provided on HeroX resources page, which you are expected to download, complete, and submit. And the TPL assessment you submit will be evaluated this time. And first, we will evaluate the process you followed. So These are the things that we'll be looking for. First, we want to see that your assessment is realistic and accurate, that you have provided adequate justification or background information. We want to see that you have demonstrated an understanding of the strengths and weaknesses of your technology that the TPL is trying to communicate. And finally, we want to see that you're planning to address the weaknesses through innovations, technology adjustments, or other mitigation strategies. Now, secondly, we'll also evaluate the technology promise or the techno-economic potential. That will be based on an independent assessment by the reviewers. Next slide, please. Now, this slide shows the general format of a question in the TPL assessment. This is actually the first question, but the format is the same for all 12 questions. What you see on the left is what is given to you as part of the question, and what you see on the right is what you had to fill in. What is given has 3 parts. The first part is the question itself. The second part is question guidance, which is a more detailed explanation of the question. The third is scoring guidance, which gives you guidance on how to go about choosing a score, when to choose high, when to choose medium, and when to choose low. I won't take the time to go through these, to read through these questions, but looking at the right-hand side, what you see are the 3 things that you need to fill in. The first input is your score itself. You can choose integers from 1 through 9, 1 being the lowest and 9 the highest. The second input field is for you to say how confident you are about the score you input. If there is uncertainty or not much is known, or like we say, it is a known unknown, then you want to flag it low confidence. On the other hand, if you have good justification for the score you selected, you flag it high confidence. The third input field is for you to write down your justification for the score you selected. And this is very important. Here you can explain why you chose the score you chose, cite references, standards, or other literature. That is all there is to TPL, and that's all I wanted to say. And at this point, I pass it to Jesse.
Yes, thanks, Thomas. Let's see. So I'm going to talk about 2 of the specific submission requirements. One being the technical narrative, which is the going to end up ultimately being 2/3 of the overall score, and one being the leaderboard scoring, which was the lowest scored, but has I liken it a little bit to like doing your homework in college. Like it doesn't actually contribute a lot to your score, but but it will absolutely help you on the test, so to speak. So first, I'll start with technical narrative. There's essentially 4 areas. Those of you who competed in phase 1 will see that it's very, very similar in phase 2. Essentially, this is where you have an opportunity to describe the solution and essentially describe your concept and how it fits into the wave energy environment. So how your deep tech can fit into an overall WEC concept. Let's see, there's several rules with the technical narrative, but in general, let's see here, there is a very detailed table inside of the rules document that essentially provides examples of exactly what your leaderboard or this technical narrative should contain. It'll provide, we're going to provide very detailed template, but probably most importantly is the excuse me while I grab myself here. I think it's table 14 in the technical rules document that will essentially talk about how you can earn points as well as the scoring statement. So I will say that the most important thing is that this is the development of a DEEC concept, and it's very, very important that it describes the DEEC and how it fits into the overall innovation process and wave energy generally. Next slide, please. Oh, well, real quick, sorry. Leaderboard scoring, all of the information for the leaderboard scoring, and there'll be 2 subsequent slides here, so I don't want to spend too much time here, but again, it's all hosted on HeroX and easily accessible. Next slide. So specific to the technical narrative, there's information about your team, very basic information that you need to put in, and it's very important that it's all included. And then you'll be asked to provide a description of your team and organization. We would like that to be very concise. You're not given a lot of words there, but it does not count towards your overall word limit. And then again, within the word limit of 5,000 words, we have the 4 key areas for describing your team characteristics and excellence, the innovation process for which you've developed your DEEC, the viability of your DEEC concept, and essentially your plan developments for taking your DEEC and moving it to integrating it into a metamaterial. Again, let's see, table 14 will really go into providing great details of this, and I can't stress enough that it's highly important that it focuses on the DEEC and the DEEC concept and the transition to the DEEC metamaterial. It is not, we're not asking for an entire wet concept, though it is very helpful to understand how your DEEC fits within the wave energy context. Next slide, please. And as far as leaderboard scoring processing goes, this is again, all information will be posted up on a public-facing leaderboard, and you'll be access to the specific engagement activities offered on HeroX platform. You'll receive up to 5 points per scoring criteria for a total of 15 points, as we saw in one of the previous tables. And let's see here, some examples of this, although you'll be able to find this all in, actually, this is the table 14. I believe it's a different table for the other one, so I apologize. Anyways, the examples will include things like, I don't remember if this was last time or not, but recommending a conference or a journal relevant to InDEEP, super useful. Helping to make connections. So it's really making connections is a lot of the opportunity here. We also will offer multiple trainings throughout the course of the phase that you can attend. You can attend office hours with power connectors or prize mentors and such. So there's plenty of opportunities to score these points, and these will be updated weekly, we believe, on the HeroX platform, and you'll have multiple opportunities to look at those. Next slide, please. And I'll hand it back over to Amanda for wrapping up and talking about next steps.
All right, thanks, Jesse. So next slide, please. So everyone needs to go to HeroX if they'd like to compete in this phase. I did see a question come through about whether your registration from phase 1 automatically gets you into phase 2. It does not. You still need to go here, select solve the challenge, complete the paperwork or online form work. And this is also where you'll go to see upcoming webinars, recordings, get those resources, including webinar slides. We'll also link to the recording here and templates, as well as if you go to those resources, you can watch all of the webinars from phase 1 to catch up. So next slide, please. All right, to register to compete, again, you want to go to the HeroX website, solve the challenge. You need to create that account if you have not already. It'll ask you to confirm. And this is also where you can have your teammates join a team. Next slide, please. And again, we've been referring to it a lot. Please read the rules. And that is available on HeroX. And we know it's long, but it has a lot of information in there. And if you have questions, please post them on the HeroX forum, and we'll answer any of those rules questions you have. Next slide, please. All right. So we're going to pause here on this question. So this is a question that's open-ended and is actually going to be sent to you at the end of this webinar. But we wanted you guys to mull over what additional support you would like that you didn't see presented that would help you with your submission. Next slide. And we're just going to say thank you, and we'll start answering those questions in the that have been coming in the Q&A. I see we have quite a few ready to go. I'm going to pass to my colleague Carrie, who will be our MC.
Thanks, Amanda, and thanks everybody. We have just over 15 minutes left for questions. So I'm going to run through the ones that we got in the Q&A session, but please do continue to add any other questions that you may have as we go through these. So the first one asks, how many applicants were there in phase 1? I cannot answer that with a distinct number. That's not public information, but I can tell you it was more than 19. And I will encourage you to go to HeroX and check out some of the winners. You can also see who's following the prize and other participants that way. The next question is, what kind of scale is it for phase 2 tests? Is it 1/10, 1/50th, 1/100th? Is it dry lab tests only? And then are there any advantages with water basin tests? Can I pass that to the technical team to answer?
Sure, I'll take a stab at it. This is Blake, everyone. Thanks, Carrie. So my first thought is the scale is going to be determined on the individual size of your deck and how you integrate those decks together. So there could be a gap between decks and how you interconnect them, which is, I guess, a long way of saying scale is going to be dependent upon the innovation you create. I can't speak for the prize team as a whole, but I would say that I don't think there's a particular advantage in phase 2 for the deck tech metamaterial subjecting it to a water basin test. A, because the metamaterial itself really isn't the wave energy converter, and B, because the prize doesn't focus on that wave energy conversion aspect. But I'll let the other members of the technical team maybe chime in too. Thanks.
Yeah, I fully back it up, Blake. I just want to maybe add, because the question is formulated, is there an advantage? So going, showing anything that happens in the basin will not be a substitute for the power conversion at deck and later on at deck tech metamaterial level. And we explicitly excluded wet testing because we're not, as a priority, looking for the hydrodynamic conversion. We're looking for the internal conversion from the local energy absorption through the system. Maybe that helps in addition to what Blake said. So if you want to show this, I don't think there will be any extra points or anything related with it. We as a team, of course, would be happy to, look at what you're doing, but it's kind of I would even say it's outside of the scope of the prize, only in the case where you do not design, build, target the orientation values that we provided in the rules document, and you have an entirely different concept that does not fall within these wide ranges, then you might want to show us how you interact with the fluid domain. But even that doesn't need an experiment, it would just need an explanation. You could maybe add in the Q&A at the bottom if you feel the question is answered, or if you want to follow up. Maybe I can just talk to the next one as well, the target figures of merit and goals. We have not specified these. We've just given a wide range of design parameters in terms of power density. I think in terms of what we said, joules per dollar, I think this is very far in the maturity of the technology, and we didn't want to create any hurdles to enter this prize by specifying those values, some of them which are related to technical requirements like watts per volume or watts per surface area going through it, so power flow. We've given some indications on ranges that we regard as reasonable. And of course, you know, things like watts per volume, the higher the better, but we didn't formulate any goals as such. Maybe that's.
I'll also chime in and support what Joachim was saying there in terms of the figure of merit. I would add that because the prize doesn't focus on a particular wave energy converter type, it could be said, it could be argued that some watts per volume or joules per dollar might be different depending upon the ultimate wave energy converter that one creates. But because the prize doesn't give focus to that, we're agnostic to the wave energy converter. I think it's more about innovating an idea that falls within deck tech that's feasible and doable, more than anything else in terms of figure of merit. Vague, but hopefully that helps.
Great. Thanks, Blake, and thanks, Joachim. If anybody has follow-up questions, please do just feel free to pop that into the Q&A. Moving on to the next question, do we pay taxes on the prize money? I'm guessing that's the case since we must fill out a W-9, but I didn't see it explicitly mentioned in the competition information. The answer to that is yes, prize money is taxable. There's a little tool on the IRS website if you want to click through that. But yes, it is taxable. Okay, next one. Are there any specific dimension or size limit for each deck? Blake, can I ask you to speak to that one, please?
I would love to. I think tentatively, and Carrie, please correct me if I'm speaking out of turn here, we're going to ultimately have contestants showcase their concepts, their innovations. And that I think will necessitate being able to travel with it. So whatever it is, it needs to be able to fit upon a workbench. In terms of being even more specific, like what's the specific size of a deck, I think it is just as I described in the presentation. Typically, these decks, as we've seen thus far, are around 1 centimeter or so in scale, but certainly no more. I would be surprised if there's an idea out there that's tens of meters in characteristic lengths. Let me make sure I'm not messing up. Are there any specific dimension sizes? No, yeah, I mean, beyond what I just said, I don't think so, no.
Thanks, Blake. Okay, the next one, Amanda already answered, but just as a reminder, if you did participate in phase 1, yes, you do need a registration for phase 2. And so you'll just click through. Your HeroX account should save some of your information, so hopefully it isn't as onerous to create a phase 2 account. But yes, you do need to separately register for phase 2. Next question, will the slides be distributed? Absolutely. In fact, this webinar is being recorded. And so we will post the recording and everybody can just relive the fun that we've had here today as many times as you want. The next question is about the leaderboard. It says the phase 1 winners are not even listed on the leaderboard. What is the point of the leaderboard if the winners don't even know their score? That's a wonderful question. In order to see phase 1, you do need to view the phase 1 leaderboard, but the phase 1 and phase 2 leaderboards are separate. The leaderboard also is just one component of the scores. And so the leaderboard is a public part of everybody's score. And what we're doing with the leaderboard is really tracking engagement. So you get points that show up on the leaderboard for attending webinars, for going to office hours, for I think the first one, creating a team name, got you a point on the leaderboard, things like that. It's all detailed in the rules document, but the leaderboard is just one small portion of how we actually count the entire score. So by looking at, the top person on the leaderboard may not correspond with who a winner is or isn't, and we do not publish the scores of individual teams. You either are a winner or not. So hopefully that clarifies that. Please let me know if you need more clarity on the leaderboard question. Somebody asks, I'm joining you today and I'm new. Is it too late if I want to apply for phase 1? The answer is you cannot apply for phase 1 because that has already closed. But if you're new, you can apply for phase 2, and you do not need to have participated or won in phase 1 to be eligible for phase 2. please do consider applying for phase 2, even if you did not participate in phase 1. They also ask, is there a link? The answer is absolutely. There's a link. If I could ask one of the team members to put the link to the HeroX in the chat, that is going to be where you can find all information on this prize, how to apply, and everything else you might need. Okay, is there a specific submission date for new people or inventor with the new design? Yes, the new submission date is the end of phase 2, which, let me just triple check my memory here. Phase 2 opened on November 7th and closes on May 7th. So anybody that wants to participate in phase 2, you can be absolutely new to the prize, and you have until May 7th to submit your idea. Okay, if we are new, does a technical proposal require approval prior to moving to demonstration? I'm going to answer what I think this question is getting at. Again, please do put something into the chat if this is not what you're asking. But each phase of the prize has, at the end, there is a review period. So it's not so much an approval, but your technical proposal for phase 2 will be reviewed by a set of expert reviewers and scored. And if awarded, then can move on to phase 3, which I think is what you mean by moving on to demonstration. So yes, there is a stage gate at the end of each phase. Again, between phase 1, which is already closed, and phase 2, phase 2 is still open to everybody. Phase 3, you will have had to participate in phase 2 to participate in phase 3. So this is everybody's last chance to join the prize in phase 2, because once we get to phase 3, you will have had to participate in phase 2, which I guess is akin to an approval. So let me know if that answered your question. Please feel free to put something in the Q&A if it did not. Okay, if we did not apply to phase 1, are winners of phase 1 more likely to be winners in phase 2? Thank you. That is a really interesting question. I would say the answer is no. We do not take into account whether or not the team was a phase 1 winner when reviewing phase 2 awards. I will say people that have been involved since phase 1 likely have more background. They're a little bit more ingrained into what the prize is doing and the goals of the prize and the terminology and, all the things that you get up to speed with when you join a prize. But there's no reason that somebody couldn't come into phase 2 and be successful, even if they did not participate in phase 1. In fact, the prize is built to allow for the success both of people that participated in phase 1 and phase 2. So the answer to that question is no. Somebody mentioned maybe the leaderboard should be called engagement score. Thank you. I actually really like that. And yeah, we will discuss that amongst our team and see if it's possible to change that. I think that is a more accurate name. So thank you for that comment. Okay, we got through all the questions in the Q&A section. I do see we do have somebody with a hand raised. I don't know if we have the capability to unmute folks or if it's better to just receive it through the Q&A. Taylor, can you weigh in on that?
Yes. Dien Phoon, we just gave you the ability to talk. If you want to chime in with your question now, just need to unmute yourself. If not, Carrie, I believe, oh, please go ahead.
Oh, okay. I am an American citizen, but currently living in Taiwan. That's my problem. I attended the phase 1 competition with my patents, wave-powered electricity generator, but was not selected. I want to make sure whether I'm eligible to attend the phase 2 competition, because I can only attend phase 2 as an individual, and I'm currently living in Taiwan. Yeah, please help me.
Okay, thank you for that question. So yes, international participants, there's some nuance there. The prize funds need to be awarded to somebody in the United States with a United States address, but the partners of the the person with the US address can't, their address is immaterial to the Department of Energy. So if you are an international participant, you do need to be partnered with somebody with a US address that can receive the prize funds, but partners can be from wherever. Does that help?
Oh, yes. Okay. I can find my friends that still living in America. Does that work?
They need to be a part of your team and participating on the team.
Oh, okay. That's difficult to me. Okay. Yeah, I'm living in Taiwan to take care of my dementia mothers. It's difficult to move to talk to America. Yeah.
Of course. Yes. Well, one thing you could consider is going on the HeroX website and seeing if you can find a team to join. That would be one way to find the team, and also talking to some of our competitor support groups about kind of your area of expertise and see if they can help you find a team that would be a good complement. So those would be my suggestions. Thank you for your interest in the prize.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, let's see. I think I saw another question come through. All right, so let's see. Phase 2 is intended to award and provide funding for the build and demonstration of the deck technology. In other words, the prototype would come at the conclusion of Phase 2 award announcement, not part of the Phase 2 submittal. Okay, I think I understand. So I'm gonna answer some question, then I'll invite the rest of the team to jump in. So Phase 2 awards at the end of Phase 2, and everything that happens during Phase 2 is outlined in the rules document. So there wouldn't be so you would not be able to use Phase 2 funds to work on the work that is outlined in Phase 2, which I think is what this question is asking. We intend and hope that folks would participate in Phase 1, and then they could use those funds to then facilitate their participation in Phase 2. But if you are new to the prize, then you wouldn't have any Phase 1 funds, meaning that you would have to do all the work outlined in the Phase 2 rules document to be awarded in Phase 2. And I invite the rest of the team to jump in if anybody read that slightly differently than I did.
Looks like you answered it, Carrie.
Okay, great. Oh, perfect. Just saw that pop up. Okay, wonderful. Glad that was helpful. Okay, we are now at 2 p.m. Eastern. So we will, to be respectful of everybody's time, end it here. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to see what happens in Phase 2. It's such an excellent Phase 1. And we can't wait to see what happens. If you have other questions, there is a way to ask those on the HeroX website, which we will be linking. Can somebody just put that in the chat really quick? That would be great. But it's just herox.com/InDEEP. So we're looking forward to Phase 2. Thanks again, everybody.